Pokémon Twitter and Y are now 10 years old. And I feel old as fuck.
Summoning
Nag.
Hello guys!
What's up, naggers?
Pokémon X and Y are some of my favourite Nintendo games to date, and were my favourites as a kid, so it only felt right to make a video on the games at this very special moment. Generation 6 gets absolutely dunked on all the time, and it is not for good reason. It's truly remodelled Pokémon as a whole, bringing 3D aspects to the mainline games. As well as this, it had the best version of the anime, XY and XYZ, and I'm pretty sure I'm not biased in saying that. Without further ado, let's talk about the game's aspects. In honesty, the story is not as amazing and could not top Gen 5's. If you really want a great story in Pokémon to do with Gen 6, just watch the anime because it is epic. Anyway, the story goes as follows. You wake up being attacked by a bird that can breathe damn fire, and then realise you're in France. Anyway, you then get changed and meet your divorced mother, and like in every game, she's not relevant. You then go outside and meet two rivals, which I think is fair enough. 2 makes the game a bit more fun. That is until you find out a few seconds later that there are 4. So let's talk about each of the rivals. Depending on which gender you chose, because in France there is only 2 genders, you get a rival of the opposite gender model. Because they needed to throw in the model because it was easier or something, if you chose the guy, you get Serena, who's actually a relevant character in the anime, and is like some fashion icon girlfriend, I don't know, I kind of forgot. But if you chose to be the girl, then you get the most irrelevant, soulless crap of a character who serves
zero purpose.
So just please choose to be a guy this generation. Now despite that, the other 3 characters are actually really fun and lively characters. You've got some fat dancing man who is cool, some anxious Pokemon nerd who probably owns a Discord server, as well as this girl who is just a throw-in enthusiastic character, but it's still pretty cool I guess. I kind of forgot their names in 10 years, but you know, we'll roll with it. For pretty much the first time ever, you get a starter from the rivals, and well, you get the option between a fawn, a furry, and a frog. What great options! Anyway, let's skip forward a bit because there's quite a lot to talk about in this story. After you beat the first gym, you meet these 2 random kids who apparently work for the French man who is the professor, and yeah. This confirms that France has child labour. So they take you to Paris, which is basically a better version of Gen 5's New York City, and you get to meet the professor. And oh my god, he gives you a Gen 1 starter for some reason. And well, this moment for me was when I fell in love with Pokemon. I met my favourite starter, Squirtle, which I suppose doesn't make much sense here in France, but whatever. You head downstairs and meet the villain of the story. It's Hitler, but he's a genius inventor or something. Sounds familiar? Anyway, he has this weird goofy haircut which is supposed to imitate that one fire Pokemon, but that doesn't matter. You then go to a French cafe and while very epic French music ensues, this happens.
Diantha, I want to create a perfect world where only beautiful people and Pokemon live. Wouldn't that be a paradise?
He then leaves and the woman turns to us and asks if one day we would battle her. What a random scene. In the next town, Snorlax is blocking the bridge, so we have to visit Buckingham Palace because that's now in France and chase the Queen's dog around. As a thank you, they give us a fireworks show which will help traumatise the dog further, and we get a flute to play an amazing melody that makes Snorlax move. We then go to a fossil town to go mining for fossils because France, as earlier discussed, allows child labour. Honestly, this cave just makes me upset because it gave me flashbacks to child me believing that I could find Diancie down here due to a fake thumbnail. Down here we meet Team Flare, who are an evil team or something. Despite that they are nothing special, I absolutely love them. Just think about it this way. They're tech geniuses who want to remove all the ugly people or something when the tech geniuses are usually the ugly ones. Our main rival comes over to us and we take out Team Flare, and then the scientist guy gives us one of 2 fossils. These can either become a rock dinosaur or a bigger version of Terraghost from the SV DLC. After a few more gym leaders, you meet Karina, who is some cool skater girl who actually owns a fighting gym. We then beat her ass and unlock the power of Mega Evolution. She goes with a Lucario that can Mega Evolve. Oh, and don't worry, I'll be going over difficulty later. We then go to a power plant and Team Flare are back trying to steal power, so we beat them and move on. And in doing so we meet one of the greatest designs of a character in Pokemon history. AZ is not your typical character. He's a 3,000-year-old and yearns to meet his old Pokémon Floette. This bozo clearly doesn't know that his Pokémon is probably with Arceus. You then do the Electric Gym back in Paris, which I suppose is pretty cool. You have to play this very difficult game show and beat Clement from the anime, and then the professor calls Server to go talk to him and Lysandra in the cafe.
Mr. Sycamore, I believe that it is okay to like lolicon art. What is your thoughts on these? Mr. Lysandre, you are a madman. You know very well that for the last 3,000 years it has been illegal to like lolicon art. And who says that? Not a single scripture from Arceus himself. Mr. Lysandre, you know I am an atheist, and either way it is morally wrong to like such a thing. Not even Arceus himself would allow it if I was not an atheist. Mr. Sycamore, you are completely wrong. Look at Diantha and all of her lolly beauty. That is the perfect world that I fight for.
Okay, so yeah, that was weird. Let's move on. Your rivals then have the genius idea of going to some haunted house that was actually a money laundering scheme and we get scammed. So we move on and take out the fairy gym. Oh yeah, and I forgot to add, the game introduced the fairy type, which is pretty cool. Also, the design of the gym is supposed to feel like Barbie or something, which is pretty creepy, but whatever. We have to then go to this Pokeball factory, and yeah, to be honest, it's getting a little bit repetitive. After beating Team Flare here again, a random man offers us, the child, the choice of either a Pokeball that can catch any Pokemon first try, and is the only easy way of obtaining such an item in the game, or a ball of gold. So obviously we have to take the ball of gold. And just as I thought it couldn't get any more repetitive, we take out Team Flare again in an icy cavern 10 minutes later, because I guess they ran over there that quickly, and now we have to take on the 7th gym, and shit, it looks so goddamn cool. Lysandra then decides to announce on Twitter that he is going to revive the ultimate weapon, a weapon so powerful that it will kill everything that isn't in Team Flare, to bring it back to a beautiful original state. He explains he's doing this because if he doesn't reset the world back to the state, conflict will turn the world into an ugly end. So we head back to the first French cafe and find a secret lair, where we find Lysandra and kick his ass. However, for some reason, it was not enough and he walks away, and we have to go through the lair to find him, with AZ trapped inside some weird-ass prison cell. We then get some love from AZ, so I'm just gonna put it on screen now. Boy, what a sad story. To free him, we have to chase down Lysandra, and in doing so we find 2 buttons. We are told one will unleash the ultimate weapon and the other will shut it down. One button is red and the other is blue. So Lysandra is either an Andrew Tate fan, or just likes the Matrix. I can't tell which is worse. It doesn't really matter which button you pick because it's going to turn on anyway, and oh my god, it's a terrestrialization phenomenon. We then head over to a Geotown or something and break into the lab to stop Team Flare's evil scheme. We find Lysandra and easily kick his ass again, but it is now too late. He told us that a legendary Pokemon is charging the device, so we charge downstairs and try to free the legendary Pokemon. Depending on your version, it will either be a deer from Twitter or some weird bird thing. You can catch it, and then we have to take down Lysandra one last time. For some reason, he still uses the device, but clearly he is not a pro Fortnite player as his aim is dog water and he nukes his own device. Everyone escapes the lab, and Team Flare are no more, and the game ends. Except we didn't beat the last gym and the Elite Four, so we gotta do all that crap. The Elite Four aren't really anything important, but I think the design of each of the rooms are really cool, and thus we enter the Champion's room. The Champion is the random fucking woman from earlier, which is kind of a letdown as she wasn't really that relevant, but I will say the music, the atmosphere, and the fight is legendary. After taking her down, we are the Champion, and we have beat the game. The ending scene ensues, and everyone gathers together to welcome the new champion of Kalos. Then AZ shows up and wants to battle, which is pretty cool, but after that, the most tearful scene of Pokémon I know begins. I could make a whole video explaining why that is the best ending that could have ever happened for this game, but there is no point as the game is now 10 years old. Now the question we were asking, how easy is it to actually do all that?
You guys have probably heard of a Nuzlocke before.
Now as soon as you get that Mega Lucario, yeah, the game becomes super easy. But necessarily that isn't a bad thing. Pokémon X and Y was a revolutionary game to the franchise at the first release on the 3DS, and that means a lot of new people came to play the game, such as myself. So as a kid I found the game at an average difficulty, therefore I would say having the difficulty being quite easy was a good idea. After all, it balanced out later as Lysandra's final fight and Diantha's fight were not easy anyway. If you have an issue with the difficulty of the game, Pokemon's core battle system is so flexible it is easy to make your own difficulty of the game, like a Nuzlocke. However, I would not recommend doing this as Game Freak may break into your house and sue you for some reason and take away your air fryer. To explain how easy the game is, let me just explain the routes of a speedrunner. You get Chespin and Bunnelby on the first route, trade Bunnelby with this NPC called Cliff for Farfetch'd who rocks the first gym with Aerial Ace, then on the way to the Rock Gym, get Hawlucha which destroys it. Then we can take Farfetch'd and Hawlucha all the way to Karina and get Mega Lucario. Now the game enters easy mode. You can get a free Lapras that becomes a TM slave of the run, beat all the way to the 7th gym, and now with 6 Pokemon in your party, including the Kanto starter, then enter the HQ in Geotown. Lucario then literally kills everything all the way to Diantha, and that's the end of the game. Now that may sound easy, but there is also a lot of RNG that goes into it. You also need to change the clock to Valentine's, but I'm not going to explain why. Go watch a guide for speedrunning if you're interested. As well as this, there are a few post-game elements that I think are pretty interesting. Most importantly are the 2 other legendary Pokemon you can hide. I remember when I first found both Mewtwo and Zygarde in these games and was blown away. As well as that, Mewtwo having the ability to Mega Evolve is amazing. This also feels like a good time to explain Mega Evolution. Mega Evolution, if you don't already know, is regarded as the greatest Pokemon gimmick to have ever existed. It was original, unique and added new designs to beloved Pokemon. Sadly, it made the game very easy to play, but created epic moments like when Lysandra Mega Evolved his Gyarados. Also, if you go to a certain building in Paris, you get this, which kinda terrified me as a child, but is a pretty unique Easter egg. As well as this, at the end of the game, you get to go meet the Professor, and you get this whole new area where you can explore. I'm not going to go into it that much, because it's not exactly anything that interesting compared to other games, but I mean, it's post-game, it's pretty cool. Compared to modern Pokemon themes, the music is not as good, but oh my god does it hold up. All of the other game themes have this beautiful atmosphere that just feels lovely, as well as that Team Flare's theme completely slaps. It truly is a unique evil team theme. Now I can't exactly count it, but Lysandra's battle theme in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon is my favourite theme of Pokemon ever. It is such a good remake of Team Flare's theme and it feels so intense. Now there isn't many characters whose design are memorable, but the art style of the game sure is. It's easy to argue that the 3D design of the game looks better than that of Gen 9 10 years later, and also the costume design of the characters are so flexible I'd argue they're some of the best in Pokemon history. In conclusion, Pokemon Twister and Y are great games, They genuinely warm my heart whenever I play them. Sure, it might not be the best Pokemon generation, but X and Y is a hidden gem, a Pokemon deserves more recognition. I would argue it's insanely underrated, but it made leaps with the design of the games that just changed Pokemon for better. I hope you all have a great Pokemon XY 10th anniversary, and thank you. Wait, why are we moving on? Oh yeah, you see, I'm quite known for doing a certain thing on YouTube. Cue the theme.
Complaints on YouTube. I rap into the old games, is about to shoot, cause all my niggas after games with Will. And 6-7 after us as well. I remember hitting all the YouTube channels. Niggas can't answer calls cause that's boring. You can watch tours are not falling. Now I'm rich, these niggas salty.